live there. And now we're double live. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Lifestyles of Love with your girl, Chris. And our boy, Micah, is back. Say what's up, Micah.
What up? What up? I'm back again.
There he is.
Not expecting it to be so soon.
All of the opinions have come back as well. So get ready and enjoy yourself. So we're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us again for yet another edition of the Lifestyles of Love. So, you know, lots been going on. The show we're going to do today, we're going to talk about confident insecurity or being confidently insecure. And this stems from a couple weeks ago when a certain person was at a certain concert in a certain outfit. And if you were living under a rock, well, we'll tell you about it. But in the meantime, you know, there's been a lot going on, even just yesterday on the internet, in our collective melanin community. This chick was missing and yet not missing at the same time. And, you know, I'm not sure what this is about. Is it about attention? Is it about mental illness? Is it about insecurity? Because she was pretty confidently insecure, if I have to say so myself. So I wish we could get her on here. Shout out to Carly Russell Smollett, who had a whole plan to just take on a journey and leave us hanging. Now, I personally, I was very suspect from the beginning. What about you?
I didn't really know the story, so I just knew that she was chasing a baby and disappeared. And I didn't even really think anything of it just because I come across so much chaos every day.
Right.
So my initial thoughts weren't really anything. I'm like, damn, I hope they find her. And that was kind of just that.
Same.
It wasn't until they found her that a red flag was raised. Just because of the fact that don't nobody
very
look for
red.
That. Y'all go missing and don't nobody look. So just off of rip, it was just kind of a weird situation that it was like something actually happened is what I was reading was being reported, was that something she actually did get kidnapped, but they found her. And I'm like, just off of rip, it was just a bizarre kind of a situation. And I was like, and then yesterday kind of came around and everything unfolded. And I was like,
and then the wheels fell off.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, Carly Russell had called the police and reported a baby on the highway. They released the tape of her 911 phone call, and she was very detailed in her what she was seeing. She was very detailed. And then she went missing. Her car was left, her wig, her phone, her purse and wallet and everything were just left. And 48 hours went by, and then she just walked up on her mom and dad's place.
Yeah.
And they took her to the hospital to make sure she was okay. And we ain't heard from Carly since then. She ain't talking to the news. She ain't talking to the media. She ain't talking to her friends. She ain't talking to the internet.
Which is better than
because I feel like I would be out there I would be like, y'all, this happened. This was crazy. I fought for my life, and I need the world to know it. Nah. Obviously, Carly didn't think this was gonna happen. She didn't think it was all gonna go down like this. She didn't think anybody was gonna care because that's the standard, the upsetting standard.
Yeah.
But she fucked around now. And when the internet hates you, it's a deep wound. It's a deep wound.
Yeah.
It can ruin your life.
Yeah.
My sister says she might be suicidal after this. I hope that's not true. At the same time, you deserve a revolution. down on your head for at least a certain time, because there are really people missing out here. And you mocked that.
I'm
And
torn on that. I'm torn on that.
which part?
I mean, I feel like on one hand, she deserves the chaos, but on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, I feel like this ain't the
It was a
worst
cry
thing.
for help.
I mean, it just doesn't feel like it's the worst thing that I feel like things like this have happened and foul play have been suspected, and you know, I did you see the
Mm-hmm.
what's the it's Friday, so I'm gonna keep it black, but I'm gonna keep it brief. Did you see that today? You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
I
about? Like
did. Yes.
Lene, did
Mm-hmm.
you see the way that the
Yeah.
woman articulated the position with the whole John Benet Ramsey thing? And
Right.
I tend to lean more to toward what she was saying with regard to this situation. I understand that she fucked up, but it didn't really. I don't know. I've seen worse
I don't
or
know either.
similar things happen and have it, not really affect the reality. Like she, as an individual, yes, she deserves to be held accountable as an individual. But
You think she deserves to go to jail for a false,
yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, I don't no,
phone call to the police?
yeah,
That's
no,
wasting police resources.
right.
It's manipulating.
So my thing, I don't know how to address like accountability when it comes to the legal system. I don't agree really with jail. I'm talking about under any circumstances. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't really care how extraordinary, how extreme the circumstances are. I have trouble with the whole legal system. So anytime the question of
Okay,
jail
that's
comes
fair.
into play, if you're asking me if I think she deserves to be held accountable, yes. How? I don't know. I do not agree with jail. I don't
Mm,
agree with jail any more than I agree with the death penalty. I don't agree with. I have. There's too many problems within the legal system. There's too many problems with. Uh, Never mind the entire world. Just with America's moral compass for jail, prison, further
mm-hmm.
repercussions to for me to be okay with that. So I just be like, whatever.
Especially towards people of color, right? Because
Especially towards people of color.
that's probably the bigger issue here, is that yes, she deserves to be held accountable, but the way we hold Black people accountable in this country, or once the justice system gets a hold of them, is um, it's not always going to be what it should be, or the standards are low.
Yeah,
Let's say that.
yeah. And for every win that we get,
So,
it's almost for every time we get a win or we don't take a L, people misunderstand how imbalanced that reality is, and they just think, oh, look,
mm,
she got away with X, Y, Z, and it's almost like that's
right.
an indicator that there's a balance, and it's not. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about what she deserves, in terms of accountability, but
Punishment.
I do not believe, you know,
I understand.
that's a struggle for
Um,
me.
and that's fair. It is
Yeah.
fair though, because yeah, not sure the punishment will fit the crime if the justice system gets their way, So I can totally understand that. And that makes
Because
a lot of sense.
when you
So,
look at like what happened, right? Police resources were
mhm.
really only dispatched because it became such a big deal on social media.
Which
Like this doesn't
only, which is a good thing, right? Because that means that the internet has the ability to move shit, which means Black people have the ability to move shit.
100%. I mean, that's not to say that they weren't
But
doing their standard job, but it becomes
sure,
the
sure,
kind
sure.
of job where you go above and beyond when so many people get a hold of the problem.
Right.
Right, that's when it becomes a huge issue. So it's not to say I don't want to discredit police efforts. I don't whatever, right?
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
but I do want to say that above and beyond usually does not happen as a standard. Above and beyond happens as a reaction to chaos. That's when people
Mm.
are like, oh shit, we got to pay attention because there's too many people that are looking into this. It's important.
Right. Then if you don't, you look ignorant. You look,
That's why white people
you
always
know,
get looked in, right? They go missing, and
right,
it turns into like, you know what I mean? Like, oh my
right,
goodness, what if it were my kids? Now we have to go and look like crazy.
right.
So
That's true. So we are glad. Don't misunderstand. Okay, we're glad a Black woman didn't lose her life.
yeah,
We're glad that this woman, is okay.
yeah.
Um,
But I'm gonna get these jokes off though.
yeah, but that internet gonna get in that ass, and the internet is forever. So if Carly Russell's grandchildren are listening to this right now, I'll just say, hopefully grandma learned a lesson. Don't do what grandma did. Okay. All right. Now, I don't know if there were any other hot topics other than that.
Nah, that's been the biggest thing that happened since.
That's the biggest one. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And we solved it. No, we didn't, but we tried, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be talking about confident insecurity. Now, obviously, you take these two words apart, they mean something. Confident meaning, secure in yourself, and I don't have the definition in front of me of confident. I should, but I think we all know what confident means.
Yeah.
Insecure, kind of the opposite of confident. So yes, I know it's an oxymoron, but it's relevant because this is the behavior that was exhibited during the certain example we're speaking on, but there were broader themes with this Kiki Usher and her baby daddy thing. And I'll start by saying Usher is not the problem here. Okay. Everybody wants to come after Usher. Usher's not the problem. Usher's been doing what men been doing that can sing like that since the beginning. He's putting on a show. And he does it to every woman. So Kiki ain't nobody special. She was just special in that time. Keke Palmer had a baby last year. And she had it with her baby daddy, who she's still with, her boyfriend. And
they worked it out.
I don't know. I think everything is okay.
Okay.
Seemingly, but we don't know. We didn't really get an after. We didn't get an interview. We didn't get anything. So
the last thing I saw was that he unfollowed her. That was the last thing that I saw.
Yeah, they unfollowed each other, and then she put out a video in some sweatpants with the song, and then she's been putting out a lot of body positive stuff. But within that whole conversation and that situation came a lot of different topics, such as body shaming, mom shaming, toxic masculinity, and others. So it was a good time on the internet. I will say that though. So it wasn't like it was terrible. Mostly at his expense. What was his name?
Entirely at his expense. I don't know. Okay.
Kiki's baby daddy. I can't remember his name, okay? His name is unimportant. So, definition of the first term I mentioned, which is body shaming. The action or practice of mocking or stigmatizing someone by making critical comments about the shape, size, or appearance of their body, or even criticizing your own appearance. So you can body shame yourself. But usually, well, I guess maybe it's 50-50. Who knows? That probably happens more than people shaming other people's bodies, but who knows? So usually body shaming is attributed to, trying to release power and control or trying to hold on to it. And sometimes it's even in the form of like mansplaining, which is, I think, what happened in this situation. Usher, was having a moment with Kiki singing her, "There Goes My Baby." Okay, and so everybody that knows that song knows that it's like a panty dropper. Okay. However, they're having a moment and he gives her a moment to kind of walk and present herself. And, she has a bodysuit on with a very sheer dress over it. She looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and baby daddy boyfriend over here was, he felt the need to go onto the internet and voice his shaming,
Yeah.
his public shaming. And basically was just like, you're a mom now. And then he went on to like mansplain some shit about this is my family and
Yeah.
I have these standards. And then he went on to play a Kanye West song. Which one was it? Power or something? I don't remember.
It was his verse off of Forever, where he said, I
Forever.
used to want this thing forever. Y'all can have it back.
And I'm not sure that any of those was the right way to go. But what I will say is that I'm sure he did talk to her about it before. I'm sure he said something to her or texted her something before he went to the internet, but maybe she wasn't listening. Maybe she didn't care. I don't know. But he felt like he needed to go to the internet. And public shaming is also another form of shaming that happened because it just didn't need to go down like that. And I think he thought that maybe the internet was going to be on his side, or that, those toxic men would be on his side. And they were on his side. But I think he thought that was going to weigh out over everything else. And he was sadly mistaken.
Agreed.
And I think that body shaming doesn't always have to be, well, this is just a fact. It's not always about calling somebody fat, or saying that you don't like their body or whatever. Sometimes it's calling somebody too skinny, calling somebody too dark, too light. You don't like their hair, their feet bother you. Basically just outwardly criticizing, another person about their body or their shape or their size or their appearance. And there's issues with this because it can lend itself to be a form of emotional abuse. And so that's the main reason why I wanted to talk about this, because there are deeper themes at play.
Mm-hmm.
So your thoughts? I gotta turn this light
on. So, I think that whole thing really so I don't want to speculate on whether or not he spoke to her beforehand. What I saw
we don't know.
is what I saw is that he went to the internet. That's what I saw. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that stemmed from him being confidently insecure. I don't know what it was that triggered the situation, but I know that first, you can't do anything on the internet without people remembering or going to look it up in the aftermath of poor decision making, and a lot of times that's really what happens is somebody's going to find something that you did that contradicts the values that you claim to be trying to uphold at this moment. And that's what ended up happening. Then the internet goes back, they start finding all of these videos where he's showing off Kiki body and it was totally fine when he was doing it. And then he turns around and he feels away when she does it for herself. We don't have to get into these discussions if he keeps that shit behind closed doors. And my problem with the whole situation, I see it too often personally. So this is not me saying that men are like this in general, because I can't speak for men in general. This is just things that I bear witness to personally. I see far too often us wanting to be viewed as leaders. When you were talking about the mansplaining thing with him, my family and XYZ, right? I see far too often us wanting to be viewed as leaders without actually respecting the role. And part of respect
or providing leadership,
you have to start with respecting that role, right? To provide good leadership, right? Because if you respect the role, then you have to look into what goes into it. You have to learn about versatility as a leader. You have to learn about compassion as a leader. You have to respect the people who you are attempting to lead. And so if you're trying to lead a family, you have to respect that. Um, leaders are stuck with the hard decisions. Where not me per se, but I mean any leader, like they are stuck with the absolute hard decisions, and that means that a lot of times the poor decisions are going to be made if you're doing it right by everyone else, and it's your job as a leader to push them forward in the right manner. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if he was genuine about wanting to be a leader in that particular situation, the internet would have never known how he felt about it.
Boom. And
And
somebody said that because someone brought up the example of Beyonce, and she was like all over Lorenz, or not Lorenz, Terrence Howard. There was like something, whatever she was doing,
yeah,
and Terrence was caught up in it, and he loved it, whatever.
yeah,
And we ain't hear nothing about that, and she ain't done it since. Now has she?
yeah.
And
I
maybe
mean,
she has. I don't know, but
I
not
think,
in the internet sense, not in that way.
see, and it's hard for me to compare those particular situations because I feel like what works for one person does not work for everybody, and we always like to drop everything under the same umbrella. And I feel like some men would have, like, if my wife walked out with that outfit on, I wouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't affect me, because I would know who she's with. I would know that she's safe with who she's with, and that's the only thing that I would be concerned about. So I wouldn't be worried about whether or not she's wearing that. Some people would be worried about that, right? Insecurity is not the problem. It's the confidence that comes with the insecurity that's the problem for me, right?
Mm.
It's when you're making sense out of thinking that you're carrying this moral high ground with a woman who you have personally sexualized. You objectified her throughout your relationship with her, and you're comfortable with doing that. But the moment that she has autonomy over her own sexuality, you feel like it's an issue openly. That's where the problem is. Insecurity itself is fine. We all have insecurities. So I'm not like I was never super bothered by that. But because he went to the
Mm-hmm.
internet with it, it opened up all of these other conversations that didn't,
Absolutely.
in my estimation, they did not need to be discussed. They don't,
Right.
because we make one, if you make one poor decision, and that can, like, it can trigger a whole bunch of labels that maybe you weren't even looking to have to worry about defending, right?
Right.
Mansplaining, misogyny, like, he didn't need to open up that can of worms, but he made sense out of opening up that can of worms. And at least for a few hours, it got him drove off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
He reactivated his account. Before a minute, he had to shut down because he was just getting bombarded with chaos. He could have avoided that. And I think that as a leader, it's a poor decision to try to open up dialogue in that way. If you're going to open up that kind of a dialogue, you want to do so in a more responsible manner, and to do so through being confident in your insecurity is just a poor way to execute leadership. And I feel like we
Mm.
have a really bad tendency to do that sometimes. Some of the things that I see personally, never mind what else is happening outside of my perspective, what I personally see is that we have a really bad tendency of making sense out of failing at respecting the person that we are attempting, or the people that we are attempting to be leaders to. And we just want the role. We have a really bad habit of wanting the title
Mm.
of positive roles that we don't respect. And but and then we also, on the opposite end of that, we have a habit of carrying a bunch of characteristics for negative titles that we don't want any parts of. We're comfortable with all of the characteristics that align with misogyny, but we don't want to be called misogynists. But we're not comfortable with all of the
Mm.
characteristics that align with being leaders, but we want that title.
I was also gonna say, to piggyback that, is that you want to be this thing, but you don't even have an example of that thing. And
Right,
so therefore you don't know how to execute that thing, being
right,
that thing, right?
right.
If you don't understand what it takes to be a leader, and that there have to be these other notches in it,
Yeah,
um, your leadership is gonna seem pretty mediocre, and it's probably gonna get walked all over or laughed at when it comes out, because it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just like there were pictures of him.
Yeah.
He was thirst trapping on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I wasn't looking. He looks good.
Yeah.
But why is it okay for you? Now, I also have to say, when it comes to the body shaming, because I can attest, I've been watching Keke Palmer since Tyler Perry or Aquila and the Bee, whatever,
Yeah. I like Kiki.
whichever was first.
Yeah.
Keke Palmer
Killer in the Bee.
ain't never had a body like that. Okay? She was flat acne. We still loved her, okay?
Yeah.
Because she can act and she's a great person. She's got an amazing personality. So it didn't matter. But she has been on a journey of motherhood and she's herself been, just giving herself so much credit. Like, look what my son gave me, these breasts, this ass, these hips. I never had this before.
Yeah.
She's never had this before. So that was another element of body shaming that I didn't like, because I was just like, damn, like she's, a lot of the point where she after baby are laying in the bed in some postpartum shit.
Yeah.
And this woman is alive and loving herself and celebrating her body. And this nigga's postpartum.
Uh-huh.
Because that's all it felt like to me. I was like, okay, so you're postpartum and she's parting, like you had the baby and she left you at home with it.
Yeah.
And never mind all of the, she don't need you. She can take care of herself and you lucky as hell, nigga. Never mind all of that.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves to feel bad or to be made to feel bad about their body when they feel fantastic about it. I don't care what it is. I don't care what shape it is. Lizzo or Kate Moss. But they feel good in their skin. Let it go.
Especially when you're fresh out of being a mom.
Exactly. And that's the other element. That's the next element of mom shaming. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in that space, we can't wrap our heads around what it feels like, that first time, that at any time we can't wrap our heads around what it feels like when you've had a baby. So I think that just goes back to the point that I was saying, when you feel like you want to be the leader, you have to be able to make those decisions that maybe feel difficult for you. It's very easy to just hop on the internet and bash. That's very easy, but to, restrain yourself and wait to be able to have like an adult conversation and say, hey, listen, this is, this makes me uncomfortable. This is what made me uncomfortable. Let's talk about how we can move forward from this particular situation. I felt like so much of the problem was less about him feeling like she was a mom dressing like that, and so much more about the fact that he took it to the internet and made it a public reality. All of these other conversations that triggered that spawned from that, they were just unnecessary. And so I feel like when he gets into that space, he just created people looking at the situation like, how dare you shame a mom? Man, a lot of us, we don't grow up. A lot of us, we don't grow up understanding what it. None of us grow up understanding. None of us meant we grow up understanding what it's like to be a woman. I was raised by my mama, and I still don't understand half of anything about how, about what it's like to be a woman.
There's too many elements. There's too many things. Yeah.
There's too many differences that are just, there's too many like beneath the surface differences between men and women. So a lot of it, a lot of what you learn about men as a woman, a lot of what you learn about women as a man is due to the respect that you have for the opposite. Right. And so him having his feelings like, yo, you're a mom. And I don't particularly have that much of a problem with that part of it.
Exactly. Me neither.
It becomes a problem because I know. So now I'm looking at you and I'm like, I don't want to judge his feelings. But when you put them on display, you give me authority to judge what's going on. You just opened up, right? Permission for me to be able to judge what's happening with you. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to look at your feelings and say, oh, that shit is invalid. Because it's not for me to say. That's not my position. But you are giving me explicit consent to just be able to look at you and say, oh, you a sucker. You corny. You so insecure. I don't understand insecurity. Like I said earlier, if my wife walked out with that same outfit, I'm taking pictures before she leaves. Whatever she
Mm-hmm.
shares with me while she's out and whatever she shares with social media while she's out, I'm downloading to my phone. And when she gets home, I'm gonna be excited to see her.
There it is.
That's me,
And even
right?
if you
That's me.
were mad though, but even if
Right.
you were mad,
That's me, right.
even if when you saw her in the moment and you were like, damn, why you gotta wear that? And then she's like, whatever, nigga, we leaving. And then
Uh-huh.
she gets there and you still texting her and it's like, babe, I'll see you when I get home.
Right.
Okay, now I'm home. What do you want? Now let's talk about it. Okay, well, I feel this way. Great. Great.
Yeah.
Because that is a conversation that's ongoing between the two of us and we're communicating with each other and we're not taking it to the internet or taking it to other friends because this is
Yeah.
what people do too. Let
Yeah.
me go tell my mama. Let me go talk to your mama. Let me go talk to your friends or my friends and turn this whole thing on her like
Yeah.
she being a hoe or like she's being disrespectful to the family unit, the
Hmm.
family you're building. And
And
unfortunately,
you might feel
yeah,
that.
and you might be right.
Keep it
And you
quiet.
might be valid in your feelings. He's valid in his feelings in terms of like that's his girlfriend. He can feel that way.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that
You just
it's
keep it to yourself. Keep it
right. Keep
between
it to
y'all.
yourself. Keep it between y'all because that's supposed to be the sacred thing about these relationships. Just on a side note, you know, people are living these relationships out on the internet. And this is
Yeah.
the thing that I don't understand. I literally watched yesterday. I was scrolling on Instagram, just minding my own business.
Yeah.
And I see this black couple in a bathtub, a bubble bath together.
Uh-huh.
And there's no talking or anything. They're just in the bubble bath together, just like making out, having this very intense romantic moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did you post this?
Yeah.
Not why did you record it? Why did you post this?
Yeah.
Is it a clout thing? Is it about flaunting your relationship? Are you trying to make somebody feel? That's all I was really thinking. I was thinking it was like a petty dig
Yeah.
at some bitch or some nigga that somebody wanted to piss off and be like, oh, we about to show them that we together and ain't nobody coming
Yeah.
between us or whatever. That's what it felt like. But I was just like, all the comments were just like, we didn't need all of this all this detail information, all of this. This is an intimate moment y'all are having.
I feel like social media is complicated from the sense that it puts you in a space where either you're going to share too much or not enough. And I feel like a lot of times we're in spaces where people are putting, remember I don't remember when it was, but you
What?
were out. It was just you. You was eating lunch or brunch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally just you posted a picture of the photo and I hit you in the inbox like, yo, if you want a date, just post your, you just post your date. And you was like, I'm not on a date.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Like, like,
Right.
and I feel like
Okay.
there's too much of an imbalance with the way that social media works. You are in a space where you're afraid to be embarrassed. And so people don't post they will give enough so that people speculate, but not enough so that people understand anything. And then
Totally.
and it's all due to the fact it's I think that plays into confident insecurities as well. It's like I want you to see that I'm living a good life,
Yes.
but I don't want you to see with who, just in case that person is not actually good for me. Confident insecurity,
Exactly.
right?
Posting
So
the hand holding, posting us walking, our
yeah,
feet walking, right?
yeah. So then there are
Who is
people on that
that?
side of the spectrum who do that, and then there are people who are on the side of the spectrum that what you were just talking about that just overshare. And
Mhm.
I feel like when you're a person, when you're active on social media like that, when you just, you tend to post consistently and you have a personal life, I feel like hiding your personal life is a misuse of social media when you're that
Mhm.
active. But I also feel like oversharing is a pump fake. I just feel like you just you
I mean,
trying to
I
make
just
it
think
seem like it's better
it's
than
you
what it
setting
is.
yourself up. You're setting yourself up when you overshare because look, I understand that we're in an age of oversharing and oversharing is a good thing now because it gets you money and you
Yeah,
become a influencer when you overshare and all these opportunities happen. I mean, I don't know if you watch Vanderpump Rules,
never even
but
heard
I'm
of it.
sure that you at least heard about this reality TV show that just blew it all out the water this season where this cheating scandal came out during a reality show. Like, anyway,
Oh, I
I'll tell you
didn't
about it.
know
I
about
can
that.
tell you about it, but
That's wild. Yeah.
I can tell you about it. But the point is that the girl that got cheated on
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, it blew her shit up. I mean,
Yeah.
she's got endorsements after endorsements after endorsements, and now she's living her best life. I
That's what
mean,
happened with Derek Jackson.
she looks like she's the one that got cheated on. She's the one that got burned. But then the karma, or whatever, the endorsements are there. So she's living her best life, the life that she was never going to live being in this relationship. So
Mhm.
there is a benefit, right, to oversharing and having too much information out there, because you can garner sympathy and empathy, but it can turn, because now if she can't do anything shitty.
Mhm.
She can't do anything shitty to another guy, an innocent person or innocent woman or man. She can't do nothing, because it's going to immediately flip on her. Oh my God, you did that after that was done to you. You shamed somebody, or you called somebody a bitch or whatever. Like, she's got to be a perfect angel now.
Yeah.
Except to these two people that cheated on her. She can be an asshole, she can be a devil, but
Of course.
to the rest of the world, she's got a, there's a boundary there. There's a barometer or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
she can't do anything wrong now, because it's no matter what it is, it's gonna turn on her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the internet is just not really real. It's just a lot of
It's a slippery little bug, isn't it?
yeah. There's a lot of lies hidden inside of social media. So I mean, being an
True.
influencer, you gotta expect that to some degree. Every single influencer on social media is putting on a show. Now, whether or not they decide to actually live that character through and through, I think about
Right.
it like wrestling, right? Macho Man was not the guy that was not Macho Man's actual voice. What we heard when he was over accentuating all of that chaos and shit, that wasn't his actual voice. That was his character. But he was so devoted to the character that he lived it even outside of the ring. I watched about like a
Documentary.
documentary about him, and that was literally his brother was saying it wasn't until he retired as a wrestler that you finally, once he
And he
had
dropped it.
once that moniker, he took over that moniker, he stayed with that moniker all the way until he retired, and it wasn't in and out of the ring. I feel like that's just social media. It's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people, even if
True.
even if it's your personality cranked all the way up, it's still your personality. So
Exactly. And yes, exactly. There's a lot of examples of that. There's plenty of examples of people who put on a character.
Mhm.
It's an entertainment aspect of their personality,
Yeah.
but that's not who they really are, or who they go home and show their children or their spouse or whomever. Yeah. So yes, the next theme of it was mom shaming, which is something that occurs when someone judges or criticizes a mom for her parenting style or choices. And let me say, some of y'all deserve some mom shaming. Some of y'all out here doing some fucked up shit. Like giving your children guns to pose in Christmas cards and shit.
I
Stuff like
disagree.
that. I feel like maybe there's a little shame.
I disagree.
Maybe a little shame.
I
Or maybe
disagree.
that's not the word for it, but I
I
just
feel
feel
like who
like
you are as a person, is who you
if
are.
you're giving your child a gun to pose with in a photo, that's child abuse, and you should probably be looked at, evaluated.
But that's
But
not
go
really
ahead.
about you being a mom. That's just who you are as a person.
Okay.
It don't really have anything to do with people as a mom. Like when it goes into like mom shaming, that's a reflection of your own personal character. It just happens to bleed over onto your children. It just happens to bleed through your who you are as a parent. But it ain't really about you being a mom. It ain't really mom shaming to go and attack somebody for putting their
Well, yeah,
kids
because
putting a gun in their kids'
right.
hand. Like that's who you are. You trash as a person.
Mostly people equate mom shaming with like, how you discipline your child, or how
Mhm.
you choose to feed them, breastfeed, or using the,
Yeah,
out of the box, or
yeah.
where they go to
And shut
school, or
yeah. And shut the
the
fuck up.
rearing of the child.
Right. That's how I feel. Like, yeah, whatever. Shut the fuck up with that shit.
Yeah.
It's
And you know,
hard.
the thing is that right, you know, I'm not a parent, so I can't even speak to that. But it can result in mom shaming can result in self-doubt, anxiety, insecurity. And who wants an insecure mom? You know?
It's
That's the doormat mom. That's the mom that's not gonna, you know, hold water and nobody's listening and
yeah, it makes it hard for you to raise a confident child when you're not confident
yeah,
yourself. Makes it
truly.
very, very hard, right? But
Truly.
parenting is fucking hard. Doesn't matter if
Already.
you're dad, doesn't matter if you're mom. It's a lot of times just harder as a mom. Um, not always, not always. But a lot
Yeah.
of in a lot of ways, it's harder as a mom because especially if you had like my son. Fortunately, he does not. My youngest Prince. He doesn't hide, from me.
Mhm.
Um, he's pretty balanced in terms of where he seeks security. He will come to me for security, just like he comes to his mom for security. But a lot of times, boys go to their mom. They run for their mom to
Sure.
security.
Sure.
And if you have struggled with if you struggle with your confidence, man, it makes it difficult for you to be in that space, where you can do that and guide your son through whatever it is that is stressing him out. It's a hard fucking job, and it changes on a day-to-day basis. It's never There are some things that are consistent about it, right? But the obstacles change regularly. And
Mhm.
so you have to be flexible and you have to think on your feet. And if you do it as women have a lot of pressure because y'all are considered geriatric, like in your fucking 30s, you know? So y'all got a lot of pressure. Y'all got a lot of pressure to know yourselves, right? Because that's a big part of being a parent. And like us, as and when
Mhm.
you want to
Yeah,
be
we talked about that.
successful, is knowing who you are, right? So y'all got to
Mhm.
deal with the pressure of having kids early, but y'all a lot of times y'all may not be in a space where you have even had time to learn who you are, and you're trying to teach this child how to understand who they are, and you don't even know you because you have this pressure of having
Mm.
children at such a young age. So it's just there's a lot of
Yeah.
unfairness that comes with being a mom that men don't necessarily
Mhm.
have to bear. We don't have to bear those burdens.
Right.
um
The body, the
Again,
the
that
the,
doesn't.
the snapback.
Yeah, like a hefty dad doesn't, you know what I mean? Doesn't
Mhm.
it doesn't catch the
Dad
same
bod
heat
are
that
in.
yeah, listen, I'm walking around with all dad bod. You know what I mean? I do a
Dad
sit up in the
bod
morning, that's my
figure.
workout for the day, right? And nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like it
Well,
doesn't
and
matter.
right, because you're married and you don't need to impress anyone, so that's totally fair. And then a lot of times with this mom shaming, it's other moms. I mean, in the case with Kiki, that was her man mom shaming her. But usually it's other moms mom shaming because moms sometimes put unrealistic expectations on themselves and other moms.
There is no
And
rule book. That's
you
why
know,
moms will do that to each other, because they think if this is working for me, it's supposed to work for you. There is no rule book. Every single situation is totally different. No matter how many
right.
similarities there are so many different there are so many variables that make it difficult for a mom to be able to maneuver as a mom. So for one mom to go and
And what
shame
and what
another
and all
one,
every child is different.
every child is
I
different.
imagine you can't parent every child the same way. Even if you have multiple children and they're all in the same house, yes, there's an overall parental, mom, dad figures or whatever the dynamic is, but
Yeah.
this child is different than that child. And I
Yeah.
gotta I gotta strategize a little differently. I gotta talk a little differently. I gotta pull this one
Yeah.
aside or I gotta yank this one up a little harder. I mean, there's just different variables. I mean, children are all different. So the parenting is gonna be different, right?
Just from a perspective of like eating, kids
Mhm.
don't like eating shit. And then there are other kids who like eating everything. And
Mhm.
you don't know how to navigate really either, because it's a complicated reality regardless. It's not. You would think that it would be easier if a kid just will eat anything, because then you can just cook whatever you want and boom, it's not a
Sure.
problem. But, say it again.
But
Oh,
no, I'm saying sure, but
that can still be complicated. That can still be a complicated issue to navigate. And Prince, like, he doesn't eat anything.
mm,
He barely eats any meat. Barely. You know,
okay.
he might do breakfast sausages, for example. That's
So
about
maybe
it.
he's just vegan,
Everything else is just, vegetables, fruits.
vegetarian. Okay.
He likes eggs, whatever, right? Like, but he won't,
Oh,
rice, French fries. All kids love French fries.
he's just not a meat eater.
But he just doesn't really eat meat like that. It's complicated to manage that situation. It's very difficult to manage that. So Shannon's always in her phone trying to figure out, like, what can I do that maybe he'll try and actually like, what can I do that,
Mm,
you know what I mean? She's always trying to
mm-hmm,
deal with that
mm-hmm.
situation. My mom, unintentionally, often comments on how he doesn't eat. And she doesn't mean it to be like disparaging toward me or Shannon,
She's
right?
just it's an observation, and she's
She's
might be
just
concerned or something.
Yeah, she's just concerned about the fact that he just has a very select, he has a very small menu that she has to choose from, when it comes to feeding him. And so she's always concerned about it, and she always talks about it. And I don't know if that ever affects. I don't know if that affects my wife,
Hmm.
but it's something that could, because there's always this
Sure.
discussion about whether or not she's doing the job correctly.
Oh, right.
It's
There it
always the
is.
discussion of whether or not she's doing the job correctly. Women don't need to deal with that. Women, they
Right. Are you feeding your child? Is he eating?
yeah,
What are you feeding this child?
yeah. Y'all don't
Yeah.
need
Okay.
that pressure. But a lot of times that's what happens, especially with the older generation. They raised us a certain way, and so they think my mom used to feed me liver, and
Hmm.
I couldn't stand up from the table until I ate it. Don't nobody want to eat no liver. Don't nobody want to eat that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody, not adults. So why would a 7-year-old want to eat liver? But my mom used to sit me at the table and make me, you know, I got liver and onions sitting on
Eat
the
the
table.
black eyed peas.
It tastes like steak. No, it don't, mama. Stop playing with me. No, it doesn't.
I know that's always been a strange thing to me. But obviously there were reasons why parents were like that beforehand, because it was
Of
just like,
course.
this is what we got.
Of
All
course.
right. We ain't got these other options. And then if there are other options, we can't afford them. So this is
Of
what it
course.
is. And we need you to eat because we need you to stay alive there. Okay.
Yeah.
But now it's, you know, well, not even now. I mean, even when I grew up, when I was growing up, parents were very like, okay, well, this kid only eats this and this kid only, but now it's, I mean, it's a whole other ball game because we're talking about allergies all the time. We're talking about vegetarianism, veganism. We're talking about
Yeah.
dairy. We're talking about, it's just a lot. It's a
And
lot.
that's
And
just
these
one
kids
aspect
are
of
just
parenting.
different.
That's just one
Yeah.
aspect of parenting. Just food.
That's just
That's
one
all we're
aspect.
talking about. So
Oh God. All right.
yeah.
I'm gonna think about making that happen and maybe change my mind. So the next um topic amongst this topic was toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
And there are healthy forms of masculinity.
A lot.
Okay. Um, so the definition of toxic meaning dominant form of masculinity wherein men use dominance, violence, and control
Mhm.
to assert power
Mhm.
and superiority.
Mhm.
And I think that was the biggest theme of this whole Kiki thing was some toxic masculinity, because at the end of the day, he was trying to flex on her. That he was trying to flex his masculinity and say, I'm the man and you shouldn't be dressing like that now that you're a mom. And this is my family, emphasis on the word my, and I don't want to run it like that. Which goes back to what you said, about these leadership roles and what I said when it's like, if you don't even have an example of a leader, or if you don't even know how to lead, everybody ain't a leader. Okay. I understand every man or every woman can be the leader of their household, leader of their life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a leader, you have leadership ability or skill. And it's okay for a man to let his woman lead. I'm sure there's times where it goes in ebbs and flows through marriage where it's like sometimes I lead, sometimes she leads, whatever. Um, but in this case, because like you said, he put it out there on the internet, now we have the ability to judge it and or analyze it and break it down for what it was or what it appeared to be. And toxic masculinity definitely was resonating for me because I just didn't like that. I just didn't like his tone, and I didn't like that he was making it seem like Kiki was doing something wrong, like she was doing intentionally doing something wrong or intentionally disrespecting their family or intentionally being a hoe. And that was my issue with it. And that's where the toxicity comes into it for me because I don't feel that any woman should be put in that judged place because of an outfit. You know, I can understand if she was out here and had multiple baby daddies, but you know what? Nobody's doing that to Nick Cannon. And I'm saying like he definitely gets a little dad shame just for having so many baby mamas, but the dude wrote the song I'm a Gigolo. So he told y'all already. And it was all good. Y'all was bumping it in the club. So
I ain't even know people listen to that.
well, but
Anything
Kiki
he
didn't
does.
do that. And Kiki ain't never came out and said she was no Jigaho, always on the go, or anything of that magnitude. We ain't never even seen Kiki. We ain't never even had heard her linked to no man before this dude. I certainly haven't,
Women
or
don't
since.
deal with
So
those. Men don't deal with those kind of consequences. So it don't matter that he put that song out. We don't deal with that the same way that women
right,
deal with that. Y'all are
that's what
expected.
I'm saying.
Y'all are held to a different standard than men are held to. So I mean, and
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
don't even take into consideration any songs that you could reference with me. I grew up off the idea that bees ain't shit but hoes and tricks. I grew up
Right.
hearing all of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I
But a lot of people did, and that don't necessarily mean that's how they treat their woman or their mom, or
no,
you
no,
know.
absolutely not. No,
Because
no,
on
no.
the
But I'm
other
just saying,
side of that, you had Johnny Gill saying my. So it's just like, we had Jodeci over here on the other side
yeah,
of
but then we have,
E40. You know what I'm
but
saying?
we all also have the idea of Casey's problems when it came to Mary J.
Oh,
Right?
all right.
So we have
I was
things
talking about
that
the music
yeah,
here.
too much music. Great, I hear you, but that was just when you said the Jodeci thing, it just threw me off because I love Casey, but
Damn it. It's just a new edition.
there's Bobby, right?
I know
Listen,
you love
I
Casey.
can't. Let's not do it. Let's not do that. 'Cause I got references for months. You
Fine.
understand, man?
Fine.
But no, I think that a lot of I don't. That's why I said that he should have just kept it to himself. I'm not mad at the fact a
No,
lot
no,
of us
no.
we grow up feeling like we have to be leaders, and a lot of the people who taught us leadership when we were young, they grew up they led with an iron fist.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand any other form of leadership. That's not to say you can't lead with an iron fist.
Right.
It's just leadership requires versatility. If you want to actually be if you're considered a great leader,
Mm-hmm.
if you look back in history at any of the great or at any of what the history considers to be great leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any of them who ruled with an iron fist, I would argue that versatility would have made them more effective. So if they were
Mm.
great, they would have been extraordinary. You know what I mean? They would have whatever's above great, they would have been at that level had they been able to, have some versatility. That's just my personal viewpoint on the situation. So when I hear it, that was really where the problem was. The hard thing to do in that particular situation would have been to feel insecure quietly. That would have been a really difficult thing to deal with in that
Yeah.
situation that happened with Kiki, was to feel
Mm-hmm.
insecure quietly and then wait till they
And
got
then
home
be vulnerable
and have
later
and
about
then
it.
be vulnerable. We're a lot of times we're not raised to be vulnerable. And when we're
I
vulnerable,
know.
we looked at it soft and you know what I mean? I had a discussion with a
Mm-hmm.
guy who he was going crazy for days about the Kiki thing.
Mm-hmm.
My timeline was flooded and I was just tired of seeing it. So
Yeah.
I chimed in at some point and I typically stay off. I don't do that anymore. You know, we was doing that back
Right.
in 2016 when there was just a lot of racial uproar. You know what I mean? I was
Mm-hmm.
going crazy in that time where I was all over the place on social media, just throwing, killing people's timelines with my frustration. But I stay away
Mm-hmm.
from that now, and I tend to stay away from people in their discussions. In this particular situation, though, he was just going crazy about the Kiki situation, and I was just irked about it because I'm looking at the situation like you can't defend what he's doing if you're actually trying to get anything accomplished. Now, if you just want to be an asshole and make women look bad, then cool, sure.
Exactly.
If
Mm-hmm.
that's your
Mm-hmm. Sure.
objective, then do what you do, right? But if
Kevin
you
Samuels.
are talking about, yeah, if you are, yeah, exactly, exactly. If you're
Mm-hmm.
actually trying to create a situation where problems between men and women, specifically black men and women, where problems between men and women are mended, and you consider yourself a leader, every part of the most difficult um, tasks have to fall on your shoulders. Now, if the woman if women decide on their own that they're gonna move into a different space and function however it is that that is accommodating to your vision, great, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's entirely their personal situation. But as men, if we're looking at women and feeling like we're the leaders, but y'all need to be held accountable, those two don't go hand in hand. Y'all can't be held
Right.
accountable the way that y'all can't be held accountable through shame if we're supposed to be the leaders. We have to be able to make sense. If I look at myself as a leader, I got to be able to look at you and say, I respect you. We're not doing this publicly. Privately, let's talk respectfully. Yeah,
Respectfully.
let me tell you how I feel. Let me tell you what I think we should do to move forward. Because
Mm-hmm.
expressing a problem without having a solution is a waste of time to begin with, right? Because then you just
Just
venting because
whining,
you're mad, right? So you got to be able to
venting.
say like, "Yo, listen, I love you, I respect you. This is what I think we should do to move forward. Let me know what your thoughts are. I respect you enough to understand what your thoughts on the situation are. Let's talk." And I feel like that would have gotten the problem resolved a whole lot more effectively than hopping on the internet and doing that. And
Yeah.
we need to be able to be that as men if we're going to be able to say we're leaders, or if we're going to consider ourselves, oh, this is my. That's where the toxic
Mm-hmm.
masculinity comes in. Is feeling like, oh, it's
Yes.
my. Okay,
It's
well,
yours.
show me, show me.
Yes. And there are a lot of traits of toxic masculinity, but outwardly unhealthy traits include unconditional physical toughness, physical aggression, fear of emotions, discrimination against people that aren't heterosexual, hyper independence, sexual aggression or violence, anti feminist behavior, which is what I think this was. Many people who identify as male can feel pressure to embody traits of toxic masculinity, which can lead them to act aggressively or violently towards others and themselves. Um, I think the anti-feminist behavior was the reason it it turned on him. And the only reason why is because this is America. And in America, not all women are feminists, but a lot of them are. And the internet is definitely feminist. And it's about body positivity. It's about living out loud, living your truth. Well, at least on my internet. I understand other people's internets, show them things that they want to embody. But um, the internet that I get is full of Americans who, American women who ain't asking for permission to show their bodies off, ain't asking for permission to, uh, show these stretch marks or whatever it is. And so I think that was the downfall, because I don't think that you can really get away with that as an American man in America, unless you're, I don't know. I don't know how you would get somebody on your side about that in America, being honest with you. In liberal America.
I, I think that goes back to the actual problem, right? If you consider yourself a leader, then you know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like there are women who are like that. You don't have to convert anybody a lot of times. And I feel like what ends up happening is we meet women who don't fit the aesthetic that we later go on to describe as being important to us. Um, and then we try to convert them once they're in our space, um, instead of looking
Mm-hmm.
for women who actually meet the standards that we have for women. And I feel like there are women
Mm-hmm.
that are out there that are like that. On that same post that I was talking about, there were
Yeah.
women who were supporting everything that homeboy was saying, and I'm looking
Yeah.
at the status like, oh my god, this is like misogyny at its finest. Like, like in my brain, this
Massage
is what I'm looking
noir.
at. Man, I'm looking
Massage
at.
noir.
Also, though, I feel like what happens with them is they look at feminism and it's muddied. In
Mm-hmm.
2023, it's not. Its core reality is to
True.
uplift
True.
women in reality, like at its core. In
Yeah.
2023, it's like you can lump in slamming men and fuck niggas, and then
Right.
you know what I mean. You can do all of that and
That's
lump that
true.
into feminism in 2023, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. So I feel like a lot of men see that, and they look at those waters being muddied and they say feminism is some bullshit. However,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
goes back to leadership. Your job is not to be worried about what's fucked up over here unless you're going to fix it, and you can't fix it making sense out of trying to rule with an iron fist. You have to be
Mm.
versatile. So if you're looking at the situation like, yo,
Yeah.
I want people to adhere, you have to respect that. First of all, you have to respect that people are going to have a difference in opinion, even if you don't like it. You can
Yeah.
hate everything
That's
about it,
just
but
one
you
on one.
have to respect that people are going to have a difference in opinion. And if you're not in that space where you can say, yo, I'm this section over here, they're never going to see my way as a
Mm-hmm.
way that complements the way that they function. If you can't do that, you're not in position to make sense out of saying anything about anyone. You
Mm-hmm.
you have
And
to respect that much.
right.
So
And there are there are, sorry, there is such a thing as toxic femininity. And that's another show. And we'll do it.
totally
But
different.
totally different, you know, I don't know, different vibes. Okay,
Different.
so then the opposite being like positive masculinity,
Hmm.
non-toxic,
Hmm.
are men who address disrespect,
Hmm.
encourage other men to express their emotions
Hmm.
freely, encouraging compassion and kindness towards themselves and others,
Hmm.
listening, listening to experiences and validating feelings. It's
Yeah.
okay that you feel that way. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe I don't like that you feel that way, but I'm not going to tell you that it's wrong to have feelings.
Yeah.
And then the last one was check in with male friends and loved ones. I think it's very important for men to have some kind of, sorry, I don't know what the word is. The word is escaping me, but some form of camaraderie among other men that can hold you accountable for your bullshit, because sometimes it's really difficult for women to call men out on certain things
Hmm.
because it just seems like we're nagging, or like we're being negative, or we're being toxic, right? When we hold you accountable because you said you're going to be somewhere and you're not. And now I'm nagging you because I'm like, why can't you never just be where I told you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
Right.
oh, this bitch, here she comes. It's like,
Hmm.
well, actually, if you talk to another man who is going to keep it real with you in
Hmm.
a positive, respectful way, he's probably going to be like, well, man, like, why are you always late? If you told her that, why wouldn't you hold that up?
Yeah.
Instead of uh giving each other just bad advice and basically just saying like, you good, dog, like she tripping,
Yeah.
because she might be. but that's not the way to address it so that your guy, your friend has a successful relationship or a successful interaction with the woman,
Yeah.
you know?
It- to me, it just sticks right along with the leadership reality. I just feel like
Totally. You're right.
you have to. We got to hold ourselves accountable. I mean, if you don't want to be viewed as a leader, then that's great. But you can't want to be viewed as a leader and not be willing to make all of the difficult decisions. I feel
Yeah,
like
you can't
some.
have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I feel like a part of being a leader is also just understanding when not to lead.
Exactly.
Shannon takes
That's a
charge.
huge part of it.
Shannon takes charge, and I just be like,
Well,
shit.
and you know what I was also going to say about that?
Where's the
There's
shotgun?
probably times that Shannon's taking charge and she makes you feel like you're taking charge.
It's
There's
necessary.
women have the ability to do that,
It's necessary.
where it's like, of course, I'm the one that planned this trip because I'm the woman and I'm the one that has that kind of
Right.
brain. But when we get to the resort, this is my man. He's checking us in. He's the person that's going to lead us to our room and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
he's going to be the one that, leads us to all the events that we planned and all, and takes the reins and leads or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the one that planned I planned it down to a T,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
But,
one example.
but even in an overt reality, right? In an overt example, sometimes knowing is just letting the other person take charge. So if you're a
Yep.
man and you feel like I'm the leader, you have to know when this is not your time to lead. You got to know
When
that
it's time to take a back seat.
it's time to take a back seat. That's just a part of leadership. And being a leader is not always about being in the front of the line.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just understanding that you need to take a step back and you need to allow. You don't sit in the role of a leader so that you can remain a leader. You sit in the role of a
Right.
leader so that you can elevate leaders. Right.
Teach others to lead.
right. That's your goal as a leader ultimately. And
And then
so
you need to
you
sit
can't
back and let them lead so that you
absolutely
can.
100%. And so if you don't know that there are times when your wife, your girlfriend or whatever, right, is going to lead, if you don't know that there are times when that's necessary, if you don't respect that, and you're not fit to play that role, and that's just the reality of the situation. So I know that a lot of like the way that I view things is viewed as passive. And so people look at
Mm.
this situation. I know other men. I've spoken with other guys who feel like, man, you sound like a woman right now, and I'm like, that's okay. I'm married to a woman, so I don't really care. Like, you know what I mean? It's I'm totally fine with it.
I mean, that
Um,
only makes sense because you've been talking to a woman and been listening to how a woman thinks and how she speaks on herself as a woman. And now you understand it. And so now the way that you express yourself has a little bit more of her in it. And
yeah,
now you sound like a woman. I mean, that I'm sure that's heard around the world once men get married and are actually in love with their wives. Um, you listen to your wife? What?
you should,
You talk to her
you
about
should,
these things? Like, wow, like you guys have conversations
you
every
should,
day, just the two of you, and
you
it's
should.
like, well, what if you're married? I mean, what else are y'all doing?
There isn't a song on the album that I dropped on that Redemption joint. There isn't one song that has a topic that me and Shannon haven't discussed 1,000 times. Not one. We've discussed every single topic on all 12 of those joints. That's just the way it is. At least if it's
Mhm.
supposed to be healthy, you're supposed to be able to have those discussions.
I mean,
Sometimes
listen,
I
there are some
go,
people who have to have relationships. There's boundaries of conversation. Sometimes there's things you can't talk about because you don't agree or it's going to start a fight.
I don't have
We
boundaries
ain't gonna
with
talk
Shannon.
about that bitch from the past. We don't want to talk about that. That's in the past.
I don't have
You
boundaries with
know.
Shannon. I know
Okay, and
some
that's what
relationships.
I'm
I
saying.
know
I'm
some
saying that.
relationships are like that, but that's the point, right? Is that nothing is always the same, right? There's literally no relationship that actually is identical to the next. So some people are gonna have
Right.
boundaries in their relationships. When it comes to conversation, me and Shannon don't have any boundaries. It's just a different situation for us
No.
than it is for other people. There's nothing wrong with it. I just feel like you need to know what it is that works for your situation
Hmm.
and actually respect
Totally.
that. I
Because
think one
people
of the
have triggers and people
yeah,
have boundaries and issues that they just can't or don't
yes,
want to, or things that have happened in the past have a way of resurfacing, if you're somebody that holds grudges, if you're somebody
Yes.
who can't let
Yes.
things go all the time, then there
Yes.
might be things that it's like, we just don't talk about that. We
Yeah.
don't talk about burnout, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's based on what you both have decided
100%.
are the boundaries or the
100%.
safe words or whatever. So, great. This is a great conversation because it can continue. There's so many themes among this oxymoron of a topic that
Yeah.
that can come out. I mean, obviously if you've been listening, you hear it. There's stuff, you know, I brought up some topics to talk about, but there's other things, you know, there's other aspects of those topics. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if anyone has any commentary on our commentary, please hit us up.
No, no,
Shout
no.
out to my DMs
Don't hit me up.
and let me know. Well, okay, Micah is the type that, you know, he would rather be seen and not heard. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure he would rather be heard and not seen, but you can always DM me. Shout out to my DMs because y'all keep me going. All right. Had some great conversations this week. Great conversations. And in the meantime, you can always follow, subscribe, like, follow, love, heart, thumbs up, cry emoji, whatever. At Lifestyles of Love _ at Crystal with a K on IG or TikTok, and at Aspire to Inspire _music. If you feel like you need Micah to know your thoughts. Now, if he doesn't respond, I'm not responsible.
Keep it to yourself.
But
And
I will
fellas,
respond.
and
Okay.
fellas, listen, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear none of
Okay.
y'all anger with my. I am not saying women are perfect. I'm saying we could do better at helping everyone do better. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. We can all come together, you know,
That's it.
and make it a better place. You know, Michael, he meant that shit. All right. We love you and we thank you for another amazing episode of Lifestyles of Love. Thank you, Micah.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
absolutely. Thank you
always
for having me.
and forever, of course. And he'll be back. And please catch up on our episodes. If you didn't listen to the last one, Questions with Karen, fire! Like on fire. Okay. So definitely listen to that one. And our debut of Lifestyles of Love 2023 Reverse Racism. For now, this is your girl, Chris, signing off. Good night. Okay.